Let's bring in Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Thank you, Senator, for joining. By the way, you are one of my U.S. senators since I moved to the great free state of Florida. You guys, the whole legislature, are doing a fantastic job. Sir, 1,500 troops to the border, and today we learned that the El Paso mayor declared a state of emergency for El Paso because of the invaders who are crossing the border at an alarming clip ahead of Title 42 expiration next Tuesday. Your thoughts?
Well, if this was happening in some other part of the world, the United Nations, people would be calling the United Nations to go down there and deal with this crisis. It is an unprecedented border crisis. It's about to get far worse. In fact, we are hearing reports from people, we have to understand there's a lot of people, for example, that left Venezuela that have been living in Chile or Peru or whatever, and they're all sort of now migrating. We see these migration patterns to reposition near the border, so when Title 42 expires, come right across the border. So we have a bad problem already of unprecedented proportions that's about to get far worse. I think we are headed towards a pretty cataclysmic situation there on our border, which has no precedent in American history, and frankly, in the history of any developed country, having that kind of pressure on your border that fast.
But, our border czar says everything's fine. Our Mayorkas says everything's fine. KJP says immigration is down 90%, listen, due to Biden policy.
When it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%, and that's because of the actions that the president has taken.
Senator, she blatantly lied at the podium. Yeah. They called her on it the next day. She had some fugazi answer explaining what she meant, but how dare her try and pull the wool over the American people's eyes?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's very little accountability on the part of most media outlets. Second of all, I think to be able to have the willingness to say that is to say that you think the public and the general public is stupid. I mean, that's what they're basically saying. People are stupid. There's no problem. It's down 90%. It's a blatant lie. The numbers don't lie. The numbers are real. Everybody sees every day, and it's about to get far worse. And, they don't care. That's the problem. The problem they have is that Joe Biden sold his soul to the leftist devil in order to get himself into office, because that's the base of the Democratic Party. This guy he's been trying to be president for 30 years. The ticket there was to sell himself to the far left of his party, which is now controls the base of that party. And their demand is that there be no border enforcement, no wall, no people there, no one deported, automatic asylum for anyone who comes across, that we should have this free flow migration. There should be a borderless country. That's their demand. And so they're trying to meet that demand, even as they know that people are noticing this. And so they're trying to lie to them about there being no problem.
Senator, one of the other stories that's kind of percolating right now, especially down here, Governor DeSantis was sued by Disney, and then recently, I guess in the last day or so, he turned around and sued Disney and is going. Can you just weigh in on the Disney-DeSantis feud? Tell us what you see, how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two separate things here that are interrelated. The first is Disney had a deal that they did when they first came to the state. They were basically their own county, their own city, their own government. They did their own permitting. They had this special arrangement. And I think it's a very legitimate exercise of legislative power to study that arrangement and to change it if that's what the legislature believes that should be done. I think in the case of Disney, this was a company that, in addition to taking these social positions and being critical of the state and so forth, frankly deserved scrutiny on how that system was set up. The state passes a law. Their board then comes in with some last-minute trickery, which may or may not be illegal, and now they're going to go to court over that, and the courts will settle that. But I think that's a perfectly legitimate exercise of government powers to say that companies cannot have their own government, and that's what they've done. Now the ancillary things related to it, I think as long as that's being treated as that's what it is, then I think that's very legitimate.
Well, we're all about that. We're going to keep our eye on that as well. And as I promised you before we were checking you in, I said I'll drive to you one of these afternoons. Since I live in Florida, we'll share a beer, but it won't be a Bud Light, Senator. I hope you take me up on that offer.
Maybe a Modelo or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that, sir. Senator Marco Rubio, Yingling. Yeah. There we go. There we go.
Thank
Senator,
you.
thank you for your time. Appreciate your time.
All right.